Ambassador Kalen Voss stood before the crystalline viewport of the Universal Concorde's central station, his elongated form reflecting against the dark expanse beyond. For years had passed since the humans departed, and the void they left behind seemed to grow deeper with each passing day. The latest system's failure report flickered across his retinal display, another cascade of malfunctions spreading through the infrastructure that once held their civilization together. The station's lighting flickered, a reminder of how much they had taken for granted. 5 years ago, such technical issues would have been resolved in minutes by human engineers. Now, the best minds of 100 species struggled for days to patch what humans had maintained with casual efficiency. A priority alert chimed through his neural interface. Kalen straightened, his secondary arms adjusting his ceremonial robes as he interfaced with the communication system. The message bore the highest encryption level, originating from a remote monitoring station. Ambassador, his aide's voice resonated through the chamber. We've detected an active human satellite in Sector 7. It's transmitting. Kalen's primary eyes dilated. Transmitting what? A message, sir. 3 words, too late to fix it. The weight of those words settled into his consciousness like stones dropping into still water. He had been preparing for this moment, hoping against logic that humanity might have left them more than just silence. But this message, brief and final, carried the weight of judgment. The Concorde chamber materialized around him as Kalen activated the emergency session protocols. Representatives from across the galaxy flickered into existence as holographic projections, their forms diverse yet unified in their growing desperation. The Zephyrian delegates' gaseous form churned with agitation, while the crystalline frictions resonated with harmonics of distress. The message is authentic, Kalen announced, projecting the signal analysis for all to see. Human encryption, human satellite, transmitted from beyond our current reach. Then bring them back. The voice belonged to Counselor Thex of the Dominion Worlds, his scaled hide flushing with demands. We need them. The systems are failing faster than we can comprehend them. Trade routes are collapsing. Defense grids are going offline. We must have the humans return. They're gone, Kalen replied, his tone carrying a weight that silenced the chamber. And this message suggests they have no intention of returning. The silence that followed was broken by General Quartz, Supreme Commander of the Concorde's military forces. His mechanized form, enhanced by human military technology that now functioned at barely 60% capacity, loomed larger than the others. Then we go after them. We have their trajectory data. We can force them to honor their obligations. Their obligations? Kalen's secondary arms spread in a gesture of incredulity. What obligations? The ones we ignored when New Terra burned? When their colony ship Esperanza sent its final distress call and we deemed it strategically insignificant? When their people begged for representation on this very council and we granted them observer status only? The chamber erupted in defensive arguments, but Kalen had already begun his journey. The past needed to be understood before the future could be salvaged. His first destination was the abandoned human sector on Primus Station. Once bustling with human technicians, engineers, and families, the corridors now stood empty. But not just empty, stripped. Every piece of technology, every data terminal, even the deck plating in some areas had been carefully removed. The humans hadn't just left, they had taken everything they had built with them. Kalen traced his fingers along the bare walls where children's drawings had once decorated the family quarters. The absence was deliberate, surgical. It spoke of planning that must have taken years, right under their oblivious gaze. They were always fixing things, he murmured to himself, remembering countless times he had passed human work crews. Small problems, large problems, problems no one else had even noticed yet. Humans were always there, tools in hand, making repairs before systems failed. The other species had seen it as servitude, a natural role for a younger race. They had never recognized it as the foundation upon which their entire civilization had unconsciously come to rest. His investigation led him to the ruins of the New Bangalore colony. The planet had been beautiful once, he had been told, before the territory dispute between the Altarians and the Bendathi had turned it into a battlefield. The humans had pleaded for intervention, for protection, for the Concord to honor its own charter. The Council had been too busy mediating a trade dispute in the Outer Rim. Now Kalen walked through the crystallized remains of what had been a thriving human settlement. The orbital bombardment had turned the surface to glass in places. His scanner detected traces of human DNA in the vitrified soil, families who never made it to the shelters. Children who had trusted in the protection of the Universal Concord. Ambassador Voss? The voice startled him from his grim archaeology. He turned to find Dr. Inla Thuran, a historian from the ancient Scrollkeeper species. Her bioluminescent skin patterns pulsed with curiosity and something that might have been shame. Dr. Thuran, Kalen acknowledged. I didn't expect to find anyone else here. I've been visiting all the abandoned human sites, she said, her melodious voice carrying undertones of regret. Try to understand what we missed. What I missed. She gestured to the devastation around them. I once published a paper arguing that humans were too young, too scattered to significantly impact galactic culture. I believe my exact words were charmingly industrious, but ultimately peripheral to the great work of civilization. Kalen nodded slowly. We all thought something similar. Even I saw them as useful, reliable, but not essential. And now, Theron's patterns shifted to deeper blues and purples. Now I'm beginning to understand that they weren't just maintaining our systems. They were maintaining us. Their journey continued together, visiting site after site. The empty shipyards where humans had revolutionized construction techniques. The abandoned research stations where they had been quietly solving problems the other species hadn't even formulated yet. The derelict trading posts where human diplomats had prevented countless conflicts through patient negotiation and compromise. In each place, they found the same careful absence. Nothing destroyed in anger, nothing left behind in haste. Just a methodical removal of every contribution, every innovation, every gift the humans had offered to the galaxy. They planned this for years. Thuran observed as they stood in what had been the primary human data archive. The quantum storage matrices were gone, leaving only empty alcoves. Maybe decades. How do we not see it? Because we weren't looking, Kalen replied. We saw what we expected to see. Useful workers. Eager assistants. We never saw partners. Never saw equals. The political situation continued to deteriorate during their investigation. General Quartz had gained support for his military expedition, convincing three major factions that humanity could be compelled to return. Resources were being diverted from critical repairs to build a pursuit fleet, accelerating the cascade of system failures. Kalen received updates through his neural link. Food distribution networks failing on the outer colonies. Navigation beacons going dark along major trade routes. Medical facilities unable to maintain sterile fields. Each failure could be traced back to human-designed systems or human-maintained equipment. It's not just the technology, Dr. Thuran said during one of their late-night research sessions. Look at these diplomatic records. 27 conflicts in the past century that were resolved through human mediation. Their ambassadors had a gift for finding common ground, for making each side feel heard. Lisa Miller, Kalen said softly, the name carrying weight. She was the best of them. Theron's patterns flickered with recognition. The last human ambassador. She argued for full membership right until the end. No, Kalen corrected. She argued for something more important. She argued for partnership, for mutual respect, for the radical idea that maybe, just maybe, a young species might have something to teach the old ones. They found her final official statement in the archives, her words preserved in crystal memory. The Universal Concord speaks of unity, of shared purpose, of civilization. But civilization isn't just about advanced technology or ancient wisdom. It's about how we treat each other. It's about keeping promises. It's about showing up when others need us. We've shown up for you for over a century. When will you show up for us? The council had tabled her motion. There had been more pressing matters to discuss. 3 months into their investigation, Kalen and Duran made their most significant discovery. Hidden in an asteroid in the Forgotten Reaches, they found a human monitoring station, still operational. The station's AI greeted them with polite efficiency. "Ambassador Voss, Dr. Duran, you were expected." The statement sent chills through Kalen's nervous system. "Expected? Ambassador Miller predicted you would come. She left something for you." The AI guided them to a secure chamber where a single holographic message waited. As it activated, Lisa Miller appeared before them, looking tired but resolute. The recording was dated just days before the final human departure. "Kalen," she began, and the use of his personal name struck him deeply. "If you're watching this, then you've begun to understand. I'm sorry we couldn't wait longer. I'm sorry we couldn't do more. But a relationship cannot survive on one-sided giving forever." She paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. "You want to know why? Why now? Why this way?" The answer is both simple and complex. We're tired, Kalen. Tired of fixing things only to be told we're too young to understand what's broken. Tired of solving problems only to be excluded from the discussions about solutions. Tired of being asked to maintain a civilization that refuses to see us as part of it. Miller's image flickered as she moved, older than Kalen remembered, marked by years of carrying burdens alone. We're not angry. That's what hurts the most. We're just disappointed. We came to you with open hands and eager hearts. We offered everything we had, everything we were. And in return, we got tolerance. Not acceptance, not partnership, just tolerance. The systems will fail, she continued. Not because we sabotaged them, but because they were designed to work with us, not without us. Every redundancy, every fail-safe, every adaptive protocol has a human element. We try to tell you this. We try to share this knowledge. But you weren't ready to hear it. She straightened, her diplomatic training still evident despite the weight of her words. We're going to find a new home, build a new life. We'll take our children, the ones who survived, and teach them about hope again, about dreams, about the possibility of being seen and valued for who they are. Her expression softened slightly. I want you to know, Kalen, that of all the delegates, you came closest to understanding. You showed us respect, even if you couldn't show us equality. That's why I'm leaving this for you. Not as condemnation, but as explanation. Maybe somehow it will help. The recording flickered again, and Lisa looked directly at the camera, directly at him across years and light years. Don't come after us. Please, let us go with whatever dignity remains. We need to heal, to grow, to become what we were meant to be. And you need to learn to stand on your own, to face the consequences of your choices, to understand what partnership truly means. There are no villains here, she concluded. Just people who couldn't bridge the gap between different ways of seeing the universe. We wish you well. We truly do. But we can't save you anymore. We can barely save ourselves. The message ended, leaving Kalen and Duran in silence. The weight of it, the finality, pressed down on them like the atmosphere of a heavy world. She knew, Duran whispered. She knew we would only understand when it was too late. Too late to fix it. Kalen repeated the satellite's message, understanding now its layered meanings. They returned to find a Concorde in chaos. General Kurtz's expedition had launched, but 3 ships had suffered catastrophic system failures before clearing the home system. The rescue operation had depleted emergency resources needed for critical infrastructure repairs. Food riots had broken out on 17 worlds. 3 species were on the brink of war over remaining resources. They've crippled us. Counselor Thex raged during an emergency session. The humans have destroyed our civilization. No, Kalen said firmly, his voice cutting through the shouting. We crippled ourselves. They just stopped carrying us. He shared Lisa Miller's message with the full council. The chamber fell silent as her words echoed through the space, each delegate forced to confront their own role in this collapse. We could have had partners, Dr. Duran said into the silence. Instead, we chose to have servants. And now we have neither. The council dissolved into factions over the following weeks. Some still pushed for pursuit and forced return. Others advocated for isolationism, each species retreating to their home systems. A few, led by Kalin and Naran, argued for something different: acknowledgement, adaptation, and the hard work of rebuilding without the foundation they had taken for granted. We must learn to maintain our own systems, Kalin argued, to solve our own disputes, to face our own failures. Not because we want to, but because we must. The humans are gone. This is our reality now. The work was slow, painful, and often futile. Systems that had run smoothly for decades revealed layers of complexity that defied understanding. Diplomatic frameworks that had prevented conflicts collapsed without the subtle guidance of human mediators. Trade networks that had seemed natural and inevitable proved to be miracles of careful negotiation and constant maintenance. Kalin found himself studying human methods, trying to understand not just what they had done, but how they had thought. He discovered a concept they called preventive maintenance, fixing things before they broke. It seems so obvious in retrospect, yet none of the elder species had truly grasped it. They had always waited for problems to become critical before addressing them. Slowly, painfully, some systems were stabilized. Not repaired. That was beyond their current capability, but patched enough to function at a basic level. It was survival, not prosperity. Existence, not advancement. Years passed. The galaxy learned to limp along without its human caretakers. Some regions fell into darkness, isolated and forgotten. Others managed to maintain a semblance of their former glory, though diminished. The great centers of learning closed their doors. The trade routes that had connected distant civilizations contracted to essential paths between neighboring systems. Kalin, now bearing the title of Chief Reconstructor, worked tirelessly to preserve what could be preserved. He established schools where young beings of all species could learn the basic principles the humans had mastered: cooperation, prevention, the value of every contribution, no matter how small. We're not trying to replace them, he explained to skeptics. We're trying to honor what they taught us, even if we learn it too late. Dr. Thuran cataloged everything they could recover about human methods, human philosophy, human perspective. Her work became the foundation of a new understanding, one built on humility rather than assumptions of superiority. They saw connections we missed, she wrote in her seminal work, The Human Paradox. They understood that strength comes not from standing alone, but from lifting others. They knew that fixing a small problem today prevents a crisis tomorrow. They believed that every species, every being, had something valuable to offer. Her research revealed patterns that shamed the elder races. Humans had submitted over 12,000 proposals for system improvements, diplomatic initiatives, and collaborative projects. Less than 3% had been seriously considered. Most have been filed away with polite acknowledgments and patronizing praise for their enthusiasm. "We have the answers," she told Kalin during one of their late-night working sessions. "They gave us the solutions freely. We just couldn't see past our own arrogance to implement them." The breaking point came when they discovered humanity's contingency archives, detailed instructions for maintaining critical systems, complete with simplified explanations and step-by-step procedures. The files had been submitted to the Concord's database 3 years before the Exodus, marked essential reading, emergency protocols. They had been classified as pending review and never opened. "They tried to prepare us," Kalin said, his voice hollow. "Even as they planned to leave, they tried to give us the tools to survive without them. The guilt was suffocating. The waste was incomprehensible. The loss was absolute." 5 years after the last human departure, a new signal reached the Concord's receivers. Not a distress call, not a message, but music. A child's voice, clear and unaccompanied, singing a simple melody. The universal translators couldn't parse the words, but the emotion needed no translation. It was a song of joy, of new beginnings, of hope reborn. The signal came from beyond the galactic rim, from regions uncharted and unknown. Somewhere out there, humanity was rebuilding. Children were being born. New colonies were taking root. Life was continuing, but not here, not with them, not anymore. Kalen stood in his private observation chamber, looking out at the stars. The galaxy continued its slow rotation, indifferent to the struggles of those who claimed to rule it. Somewhere among those distant points of light, humanity was writing a new chapter in their story. And for the first time in their history, they were writing it alone. They didn't abandon us, he said to the darkness. They just went toward the light. He thought of Lisa Miller, of her tired eyes and steady voice. He thought of all the humans who had worked alongside him, whose names he had never bothered to learn. He thought of the children on New Bangalore, whose dreams had been buried under crystallized sand. We failed them, he whispered. But perhaps their leaving is not a failure. Perhaps it's their greatest success. They've shown us the true cost of our arrogance. They've given us the hardest gift of all, the consequences of our choices. The music played on in the background, a thin thread of beauty in the darkness. Somewhere, a human child was singing, surrounded by people who saw her as precious, valuable, irreplaceable. People who would nurture her gifts, celebrate her achievements, and ensure she knew she belonged. The Universal Concord continued its decline, each species learning too late what they had lost. The great civilization they had built proved to be a house of cards, stable only as long as unseen hands kept adjusting, fixing, maintaining. In the end, it wasn't malice that doomed them. It wasn't war or plague or cosmic disaster. It was something far simpler and far more tragic. It was the failure to see the janitor as an equal to the judge. The failure to value the teacher alongside the general. The failure to recognize that a civilization is only as strong as its willingness to embrace all its members. Humans had walked away from the universe not in anger, but in sorrow. And the universe, too proud to call them back, too late to change its ways, learned to stumble forward in the darkness they left behind. The lesson was written in the failed systems and empty corridors, in the unheard warnings and ignored proposals, in a music that played from unreachable stars. Respect is not a luxury. Partnership is not optional. And some opportunities, once lost, never come again. In his final log entry, Kalen wrote, "They say humanity was too young to understand the complexities of galactic civilization. But perhaps we were too old to understand a simple truth, that every being, regardless of age or origin, has something essential to offer. They offered us their hands, their minds, their hearts. We offered them a place at the children's table and wondered why they chose to leave." He paused, looking one last time at the stars. The humans haven't walked away from the universe. They've walked toward a better one. And we're left with the universe we deserve. The music faded to silence. The stars continued their eternal dance. And somewhere, beyond the rim of known space, humanity sang new songs in places where their voices were finally heard. Too late to fix it. Too late to change it. But perhaps, for those who remained, not too late to learn.